going to take you through our next portraiture style. So as promised, we've explored proportions and how to use the grid. We're now going to test our limits out a little bit, and we're going to do some slightly more contemporary style portraiture. So I've picked two artists that work with portraits that are particularly interesting, and we're going to merge their techniques together. So we're going to look at Kris Trappeniers and Vincent Devine. So both of them work with continuous line. So the idea with continuous line is that you're putting your pencil to page and you're not lifting it off, which can be quite difficult. So how we're actually going to approach this today, we're going to approach it in a way that's like a little bit of a cheat, and we're going to be relying on light to help us set out our portrait. So what I have here, I've got an example of one that I've done, and I don't want you to be put off by this because I have cheated in doing this. So my cheat way is to find your A4 portrait, and you can either use the Lightpod, which is one of these devices in front of me. You can use the Lightbox, which is over on the wall over there, or you can find a really good light source. So you might use one of the many bright windows around this room, and you might stick your A4 image to the wall and then place your page over the top. You should secure yours down with tape, so then that way you don't lose your line. We're then going to turn our light source on. So if you're using the light box, make sure that you turn it on at the wall. If it doesn't turn on the first time, make sure that you check underneath the light box and make sure it's plugged in and turned on. Sometimes students do unplug it to plug in their devices, so you need to double check that first. Then what you're going to do is you're going to look for a spot on your page, and you're just going to lightly sketch in your lines. So kind of like your guiding lines for your face. So you should map out the edges of the face, so the shape. The ears, lightly sketch in the nose, mark in the lips, eyes, eyebrows, if you are feeling confident, you are able to do it freehand, but with this particular study, I want you to focus more on the use of the line. So it doesn't matter if you're mapping out the shape of the face first. I might put in the lines for her shirt as well. So once I have them, what I need to start doing is mapping in my continuous line. And it doesn't matter if you have to take your pencil off the page at any time to kind of reposition yourself, but you want to try and keep it as authentic as possible. So you want to try and keep your pencil to page as long as possible. So you need to find a starting point. And a good starting point is generally the eyebrow. So start by placing your pencil on the page, and then just take your lines in the direction of the hairs. So usually at first they start flicking upwards, and then they start going acrossways. So see, I've already taken my pencil off the page just to make sure that I continue being comfortable. And I might take it down across to the eye. And then if you have to backtrack as well, that's okay. And also bear in mind, this is now the 4th or 5th time that I've done this. So by this point I've had quite a bit of practice. So I might even take my line back to my initial point there and then just continue working my way around. So as I start working, I'll start to end up with something a little bit more like this. So my initial sketch starts off here, and then as I continue to work around the face, I end up with something more like that. You can start to show some of your tone through the face as well by showing the contours of the face or where the shadows sit through the neck and through the chin, just to add a bit more definition to the face as well. Some of the highlights in the lips as well, so that's where we start to see them. And then we end up with something similar to what Kris Trappeniers does with his works. So you can see where things different facial features start and end, like the bottom of the nose, and then he highlights through kind of like the Cupid's bow there onto the lips. So he joins all those features together through his continuous lines. Because if you think about it, each one of your facial features is joined on the face by your skin. So it's all cohesive, it's all together. Once you've done that, what you might do is you might use the light box again and you might trace over what you've done. And then you might try to do something similar to what Vincent Devine does. So you might get out some watercolours and you might set out a complementary colour scheme. So you might find 2 colours that complement each other. So remember, complementary colours are colours that sit opposite to each other on the colour wheel and work well together. Or you might pick a harmonious or analogous colour scheme. So they're 2 colours that sit next to each other that work well together. And you might use those colours to start mapping in different aspects of the face. Similar to, so I've done a similar thing here. So I've picked a complementary colour scheme of greens and purples, and then different aspects of the face I've just started to add in some watercolour and build up on them there. I've then re-gone over all of my continuous lines as well, using a felt tip marker, so then my lines start to stand out more. So these are 2 techniques that I want you to try and blend together to create a different looking portrait. So we want to take it away now from traditional portraiture, which you've been working on to begin with, so looking at proportion and using the grid to create something quite realistic or semi-realistic, to something a little bit more contemporary and fun. So we're trying to do different things with our portraits now. Okay? So that's what I want you to start looking at in your next study.